In this lecture, let's go ahead and let's learn how we could create a brand new component and use the user context in that particular component. Right now we have the login component here using which we could log in as a specific username. But what if you actually want to have a logout component as well, which kind of allows us to log out as that particular user. And when you log out, you're basically back as a guest. So in order to implement that, let's first create a component. So I'll go to the source folder, create a new file, call it as logout.jsx, export default function logout, make it return a div. And in this component, let's simply have a button which says logout. And when we click that particular button, we basically want to go ahead and set the user to guest. So here, in order to set the user to guest, first of all, you have to go ahead and access this particular set user function or set user method, which we already have inside the user provider. So therefore, first of all, we need to provide that context to this logout component. So we go in the app.jsx and we already have a user provider here. So we wrap the logout component inside the user provider. So I would say logout, and that's it. Once I do that, now logout should be able to go ahead and access that particular context. So here I will make the logout component use the context. So I would say use context, and I want to use the context which is the user context. So I say user context, and that automatically gets imported here. So now the user context which we have, which is this context right here, it actually provides two values, which is user and set user. So out of these two values, or these two things, so this is a property and this is actually a function. So we now need to access the set user function. So here I would say const, I want to use the set user function from the context. So I would say const set user equals this. Now what I have to do is whenever the button is clicked, I simply have to call the set user function. So on click, I would say, all right, set the user to, you could either set it to empty or you could set it back to guest. And that's it. Now if I go back here, we do have some errors. So let's see what exactly went wrong here. So it says logout is not defined at line number 12. And we get that error in app.jsx. So at line number 12, we have logout. So we need to import logout function. So import logout from the logout. And if I hit refresh, now it's working. Let's log in as Jake. If I log in, it says checkout as Jake. Now, when I click on logout, as you can see, this actually changes back to guest. So this is how we are actually able to share a certain set of state and a function with multiple components without having to pass the state or the function as prop to any one of those components. And this is only possible because of using the context. Now we have learned how to use context in one of the most simplest ways, but in the next lecture, let's go ahead and let's learn how you could use a reducer along with the context, which is going to make our application a little bit more complex. So let's learn how exactly to do that in the next one.